Hello and welcome back to Intoxicus Flanging. As always, I hope you all remember to bring your towels, and I hope you remember to bring your more cooling design oriented towels today because we're talking about the PS5 cooling design. And I've started speculating that the PS5's cooling design is holding back its potential for performance, and I've really started to question and wonder if the reason we're seeing slightly lower stats with the PS5 is because the limits of their cooling design. And I'm starting to wonder if the Xbox Series X, if their cooling design is superior enough to actually allow for the higher clock speeds. And they do talk about this. There's not a linear relationship between clock speeds and power consumption and heat. It's not a linear relationship, but there is a cause and effect relationship. The higher the clock speeds, the more power you need. The more power you need, the more heat's generated. And really, the heat's being generated by the power usage. And the reason you get more thermals with more higher clocks is because there's more power consumption involved in higher clocks. Otherwise, your computer crashes. At least if you're talking about computer overclocking. But computer overclocking really helps you learn a lot about various aspects of this kind of stuff because you got to figure it out to a lesser extent to overclock. Like, you got to consider, okay, if I increase my power consumption and clock speeds this much, is my cooling solution able to handle that? And if it's not, what's the cooling solution that able to? It's a more simplistic version, but it's a lot of the same concepts and principles, just evaluating, if I increase this, how much more cooling do I need? And I mean, like, let's just look at the PS4 Pro to start out with. It's got like the blower design with a quite underwhelming heatsink and heat pipe arrangement, in my opinion. I think they would have got a lot more out of more heat pipes than a beefier, chunkier heatsink, but they need to keep costs down. So, there is a balancing act with cost and what's actually optimal. So I do have to give them credit for that. Also, credit to iFixit for the picture we're looking at here. We'll even go to their website. They're still using that X bracket clamp design, which it's just I immediately I see that I'm like, why are they still using that when that was proven so mediocre last generation? It worked better this time, but yeah, it's just like, why are they still doing old things that were proven to be mediocre? And that's another thought, is like, they're not really innovating things that need innovation, where it looks like Xbox has, because like, we look at this, it's not that good. Like, that's just not that good of a cooling design we're looking at. And it's effective, it's functional, but it's goddamn noisy at times too, which is just not acceptable. So, we're going to take a quick look at the Xbox Series X. It's interesting they did this kind of split motherboard thing. It's motherboard, daughterboard kind of deals. Not a new thing, but it makes sense how they had to do that because of the cooling design. And here, this is what we really want to look at. They're nice chunky heatsink. Like, that's a heatsink. Like, I'll go do it again. I'll go get. So we have to think. This is a CPU cooler. This is a GPU cooler. That chip on the Series X and PS5, they do both. So it needs a cooling solution that is literally these two smashed together and can do what both of these do. I mean, I'm exaggerating, there's more to it than that, but it gives you a good idea, and especially a visual when you're like, take this chunky bitch, smack them together, and you need pretty much that amount of thermal mass to dissipate the thermal output of the chip that does both GPU and CPU in one chip. So when you start thinking about it that way and realize the GPU and CPU are in the same chip, like there's not a separate GPU chip, at least that I'm aware of. That would be news to me if there's a completely separate chip for the GPU. They haven't been doing it like that really for a while now, I think. Anyways, the point is, like, that chunky heatsink, I'll believe that chunky heatsink can do what these do, but then I look at the PS4 Pro, let's go back to there. The PS4 Pro doesn't even look like it can do what this can do. So what the hell is going to be in the PS5? And before we move on to that, we gotta also think about the Xbox Series X has a semi-unique, like, their design is based off of the Corsair 1's design. It's modified, though. With the Corsair 1, it intakes the air through the side panels because there's AIO radiators on each side, so it needs to draw air in through those, but we don't have that. So it just draws air in through the bottom, spins it up into a vortex, which is cool. I don't know how much that actually does anything good for the cooling design, but now you get the whole system being cooled with one bigger, slower spinning, quieter fan that's more efficient with a very good looking heatsink, versus something that just doesn't have the room to do anything close to that. And here, I got my order a bit mixed up. So we're looking at the PS5. Where are they going to put it? That's what I'm getting caught up on. Even for how big it is, where in the hell are they going to put all the cooling? Or is it big because of the cooling? So that's the thing. I'm looking at the PS5. I'm like, what is the cooling design like? Is it one fan? Is it two fans? What's the heatsink like? How are the fans arranged? You know, it's lots of questions. And this is the significant one that really leaves me wondering too what the hell they're doing. Like, they put great effort into reducing the fan noise, but it looks like they're going to be using a same or similar cooling design as the PS4 Pro. At least that's the assumption by looking at this, because until I realized that the dev kit had this like 6 fan thing, 3 on each side going on, and that'd just be too noisy and contradict their less noisy efforts and statements, I thought it was going to look like the PS5 dev kit, the actual retail PS5, just because of the cooling, because that's actually a good cooling design they have going on there, even if the fan count might make it noisy. They had a way better cooling design than the PS4 Pro had in the dev kit. And, you know, the dev kits do a lot more, etc., etc., so they need beefier cooling than a consumer level model. We won't get into that. So, but I was expecting like a scaled down PS5 dev kit for the PS5, but we don't. We've got something that just looks like a bigger PS5 or PS4 Pro, which really leaves me wondering. But we do have some patents of the heatsink, which people got excited about, but, you know, a cooling design's more than just the heatsink. So here's another look at the... It's so loud it could be considered a public disturbance? I didn't even notice that. That's hilarious. Anyways, so that's a different view. So that's like the fins and just... It's not... it leaves me questioning if there's enough thermal mass to really do what it needs to do. And, you know, it looks like that's what attaches to the chip there. And then it's got, like, what, like... I have a lot of questions about this heatsink design. And it does look like here they're trying to concentrate on the hottest parts, put heat pipes there to the hottest hotspots. So that's what I'm deriving out of what we can see of this render based on the patent design itself. But yeah, I'm left with so many questions. Let's take a quick look at the just PS5 size comparison image that's been going around. Where's the one that includes the Xbox here? That's a decent one. So I wouldn't be surprised if by volume and surface area, they're pretty much equivalent. But what's interesting is how much taller it is than the PS4 Pro, while still being... Yeah, it's a bit wider, I guess, but it's got a lot more height. Then it's got And very interesting thing going on here. Let's try and look at that image closer. Credit to pressstart.com -au. Can we see this image in a new tab? There we go. So yeah, it's just, it leaves me wondering what's going on here. And it's like, I'm wondering, is this so big and chonky because of a cooling design? But we see the fins, going along each side like that. Now, if we look at the PS4 Pro, fuck it, I'm going to unplug mine and bring it over so we can have a good look at it. So if we look at the PS4, God, I'd be so mad at myself if I drop this right now. Like, we got the venting here, we got venting here. Do we have venting on the front? No. So we got venting all around it. That's like just low-key venting that, like, it's so low-key people don't even really think about. But on 3 sides of the PS4, you've got venting. So it's not, like, they're not really changing the cooling design as far as I can tell. Because if we actually look at this, excuse me, I'm just going to plug the PS4 back in. But yeah, if we actually look at it, it raises a lot of questions, at least to me. Oh, fucking USB-A. Like, which way does this supposed to go in? There we go. Fucking USB-A, eh? My PS4 is totally going to be mad at me for unplugging the power like that, but whatever. It's for science and shit. But, you get the idea. Like, it's dressed up, it's bigger, but I think we effectively have fundamentally the same cooling design as the PS4. Maybe we might have 2 fans. And, like Spawnwave's been speculating, it's very possible they could have like 2 active zones, kind of playing off how the PS5 dev kit is flanged up, where, there's kind of like a zone, there's a side for the GPU, CPU, and then there's a side for the power supply, effectively. And with the PS4, just the way the blower was set up, air was also directed towards the power supply. So it's just one fan was doing everything, which I think was bad. I think they should have had 2 fans. I hope they have 2 bigger, slower moving fans in this. And that's the thing is, and I talked about this in the previous video where we touched on like PS5 and cooling, or we were talking more about the dev kit then. But bigger fans that spin slower are quieter and can actually move more volume of air. It gets interesting because smaller fans spin faster and are therefore noisier. So that's when I really started questioning if the PS5 is going to look like the dev kit. Because if it looks like a scaled down dev kit, how are they going to arrange the fans so they're not a bunch of tiny, quiet fucking noisemakers? And then I'm looking at this, I'm like, I see 2 fans internally, one for the heatsink, one for GPU, CPU, and my guess would be one side of the fins is for one zone / one fan, and one side of the, or not fins, ventilation. One side's for GPU, CPU, and one side's for power supply. That would be my guess. And maybe they've got 2 fans going blower style, one for each side, so it's not like everything from one fan, which was just not tenable with the PS4 Pro, obviously, by the noise issues. And it's just not, like, within that form factor, that's an okay cooling design. It's functional, it works, it gets the job done. But then you compare it to the Series X, where it's got a really good, very efficient cooling design. And I'm sitting here thinking the Series X is able to get higher clocks pretty much because it has a better cooling design. And the PS5 Pro, not PS5 Pro, but the PS5 is actually holding itself back without being more innovative about its own cooling design. And that's kind of where I've started thinking and sitting. Of course, we got to wait to actually see the actual cooling design. And when we actually finally get to see it, I'll be doing content on that and analysis and all that. Of course, I'll be taking both systems apart when I get my hands on it to do some real in-depth analysis and all that. But, like, we look at the articles where they're talking about stuff, and they're talking about, like, the clocks and power consumption and boost clocks and all that, and it's pretty clear to me they're trying to juggle things around so they don't run into thermal issues. That's what I get out of reading this kind of stuff. Oh, I'm on a crappy side. Let me fix that. I'm blocking text. Where the fuck is my cursor? There we go. Yeah, it's ridiculously easy to lose your cursor over 3 monitors. Anyways, back to the topic. So they're talking about the race to idle, which is a very real thing where, you know, the GPU can kind of like not be doing anything for a few milliseconds, be like, oh, I'm not doing anything, I'll downclock, and then that actually is bad for performance. When it comes to my PC, I turn off throttling as much as I'm able to. The GPU can't really, the thermal throttling, I would need to do some serious modding and fucking around to actually stop that or make it do what I really want it to do, which it just won't because that's how they made it. But the CPU, if you overclock it, you can just set it to an all-core clock, and then it never does, it just stays at 4.2 and doesn't do anything, and just you always get high performance, but then it costs more power and costs you more on your power bill. And also gets hotter, which isn't a big deal for the PC, but for something like the PS5, that becomes a big deal. So, you know, I'm reading through all this stuff about how they're doing the, you know, there is good stuff here, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, with the dealing with the race to idle issue and all that, like, you know, it's very interesting. But what I'm reading between the lines here is very definitely that they've chosen what they've chosen in large part because of thermal limits, where they weren't willing to let the system get any noisier or hotter to have it have more performance. And I think the Xbox Series X has, what's the clock comparison? Series X versus PS5 clock speeds. Oh, that's not PS5. Wait, that doesn't even make sense. Let me fix that search. There we go. So yeah, I mean, we got the 10.28 teraflops versus the 12, so that's roughly 12, you know, 2 teraflops, which only means so much. I'm more interested in the clock speeds. Let's get that comparison. Some clear numbers. Okay, not here. Orbs, you're usually better than that. Where's my numbers? There we go. This is what we're looking for. Also, the way less compute units. So that's interesting too, because they run at a lower clock but have more compute units, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually more or less equivalent what they got going on there. Teraflops is kind of like TDP. It only means so much. So, oh yes, the Series X also does some interesting stuff. So we'll not worry about that SMT caveat. So they've got 300 gigahertz higher, or 300 megahertz higher, or yeah, 300 megahertz, brain fart. Better memory bandwidth, although it's interesting how they split that up. Although the I/O throughput, that doesn't really apply. We're more interested in the clock speeds, where, see, the thing is, even though they're at a lower clock speed over more CUs, the more compute units at a lower clock speed can easily generate more heat, because each one of those runs at that clock speed. So that's interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised if literally that 300 megahertz difference just on the CPUs, if that's just because of the cooling solution difference. I wouldn't be surprised one bit, and they probably wouldn't ever admit that to us either. Maybe they will, maybe they'll kind of low-key kind of hint around it, but I mean, that's my speculation. So I mean, we're really gonna have to wait and see. Of course, yeah. Why the hotkeys being silly? Seriously, I got to figure that out. It should bring me to the scene I want to go to. Anyway, not sure what's going on with that. I'll fix it for future videos. But yeah, so with the cooling design, I wouldn't be surprised if it's really that's what's holding the PS5 back from performing as well as the Xbox Series X, and they kind of hit a hard limit of if we want to push this any further, it's going to be noisier, too hot. And I think the Series X is really innovating more on the cooling design, and PlayStation's really innovating more on the SSD design. And if they kind of combine, they'd really create an amazing console. But is that going to really happen anytime soon or ever? So yeah, we gotta wait and see what the actual cooling design is like, how noisy it is, how hot it is, all that stuff. But what I'm looking at just really leaves me wondering and really leaves me asking some questions and really thinking that the Series X has a much better cooling design and also is going to perform better overall because of it. But at the end of the day, as we've already seen, it's really games and exclusive games that are going to make people decide one way or another if they can't choose. And it's really what games are they into. There's Halo and Gears of War people that are just they're going for Xbox first. Then there's PlayStation people. There's more, that's the thing, there's more exclusives, so I'm not going to name them. So there's a bunch of PlayStation exclusives that are going to draw people towards that. And I don't think, as much as the Xbox Series X cooling design is more innovative and I believe allows it to be a more powerful system, I don't think that's going to matter though. I think the PS5 is probably going to wind up with more sales because it has more exclusive games that are more appealing. Like that PS5 reveal event, woo, damn, that was good. Like, I didn't give a fuck about the PC gaming show because that was so good. The PC gaming show just can't follow that without being without going really all out. And all respect to Day9 and Frankie, I love them, they're great. But they should have realized they need to schedule before the PS5 reveal event if they want to get a lot of attention. So after that, it's just like, yeah, yeah. Anyways, so I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Do you think the PS5's performance is being held back by the cooling design? Do you think it's too early to even speculate about this kind of stuff? Do you think it's other factors why the performance difference exists? I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments, or hit me up in the live stream, which we're doing because of the Valve Index is coming tomorrow. And also now that I'm doing regular VR content and streaming, the streaming schedule is going to change up, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, no, if you want to get some discussion going, social media, comments here, hit me up in a stream. Love having debates and discussions about all this stuff, so please flange that up. And yeah, also please flange up a subscription and a like, and hit that bell for notifications and all that good stuff would be much appreciated. And also, if you think this video sucks, give me that thumbs down. But if you give me that thumbs down, please offer some constructive criticism, respectfully so, please, to help me learn to help me get better and improve. I'm new at this, I'm dedicated to figuring it out, so all feedback is important. And I think that about wraps it up for today. We stayed under 25 minutes, or more or less. So I'm happy enough about that. I got to get better for time and being concise. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the content. VR content is coming, well, maybe starting Thursday, because might be some lag in getting the video actually uploaded and all that. So I think I'm going to stream the unboxing when I get it. I might even stream the setup. I don't know. I got to think about how to flange that up, because there could be some tricky aspects to it. So yeah, keep an eye out for all that good stuff. And as always, have a good one, and remember to bring a towel. One day I will get this outro music